Well, I was standing in the Halloween store this week with my son, who was buying an M16 for his costume for Halloween. And I was reminded how Halloween is the fun side of this season. How Halloween, with its ghoulish naughtiness, gives us permission to turn things upside down and laugh at ourselves and our world. Someone standing near the guns for kids section said to a friend, "You want to be a U.S. president?" And the friend replied, "Nah," and moved on. Lots happens at the Halloween store. It's actually quite interesting. And you can help me afterward. I'm thinking about either being that blue dot on the GPS map or Lance Armstrong with a syringe in his arm. But that's... My son turned to me in the Halloween store and said, "Dad, why is Halloween so bloody?" The fact is that this holiday is a nod to the ancient ways of communing with the spirits. And it is a season that nods to death. Now, I didn't say that to Nicholas. In many parts of the country, the season is turning toward winter, the real death of the land. In our land here, we're just turning toward winter, hoping summer doesn't come in March. But there's a melancholy of this year that I feel, maybe a nostalgia. Howard Thurman, who was Martin Luther King's minister when he was at Boston University, called this the season of remembrance. Thurman wrote this: "This is the season of remembrance. Again and again it comes, the season of remembrance. Empty vessels of hope fill up again. Forgotten treasures of dreams reclaim their place. Long-lost memories come trooping back. Into the challenge of my anguish, I throw the strength of all my hope. I match the darts of my despair with the treasures of my dreams. Upon the current of my heart, I float the burdens of the years. I challenge the mind of death with my love of life." The season of remembrance, he says. I love that last line. I challenge the mind of death with my love of life. My life, which I take so for granted. My life, which I have so many opportunities to do something with. My life that has at moments teetered on the edge of death, I kid you not. To remember life, the inevitability of death, in this season, the season of remembrance, has value for the human spirit, I believe. In part, it is because we tend to avoid, I think, both life and death in all the ways that I have mentioned and all the ways we know. We tend also to live in the lives of others, especially in the fictional lives of others. I say this as an addict to the TV show Breaking Bad. I'm on the 5th season. I can't tear myself away. I'm watching it before breakfast some days. I am in those people's lives. A worthy escape, but at a cost, ultimately, of living my own life. So on occasion, we turn to a time like this today to be intentional about life and death, to be spiritual people and engage with memory and the honor of the dead for no better reason than it is good for us. In the Christian church, the days after Halloween, the first day after and the second day, are All Saints and All Souls Day. Admittedly, these are quite Anglican for our non-dogmatic faith. Traditionally, All Saints Day celebrates the church saints, as it is indicated in the name. Those saints deemed by the Pope or some other higher authority to have performed miracles and lived holy lives, of which there are more than 10,000 saints. All the Catholics, you should know all their names. Do you know them? Including the more recent, radically included Native American Lily of the Mohawks. I applaud the Catholic Church for that. They also include 6 St. Daniels, which I found exciting, and only 1 St. Aaron, but that's how it goes. You got to do your time, I guess, We claim no heritage on miracles. Our saints, our UU saints, might include a list, although there is no official list, might include those who have performed not miracles, but lived holy lives. Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau and Louisa May Alcott and Fuller and Channing and Parker and Olympia Brown and Susan B. Anthony, all in our heritage. It might extend to people like Kurt Vonnegut, yes, a UU, and James Luther Adams and Frank Lloyd Wright. Or we might ask, who are our personal saints? Grandmothers, grandfathers, friends who pulled us up when we needed them. Those human lives who saved us at the right moment when all seemed dark or meaningless. The saints of our faith need not have performed miracles except for the miracle of being fully human. And All Souls Day, maybe even more applicable, celebrates the faithful who have passed. For Christians, those faithful are in purgatory, and that's who we celebrate. You have anyone in purgatory? For us, very foreign concept, that the idea that some dead are stuck in some place doing time for their sins. But for us, All Souls Day is a time to respond to the spirit of the season of remembrance. For us, All Souls is a way to find hope in the memories of those in our lives who have passed. It is a time to consider what our ancestors gave us, the many moments in which their lives led to ours, their choices, their decisions, their love triangles, or whatever it was, led to our lives. By some calculation, the odds of you existing are very slim. Some models factoring thousands of those moments that your ancestors went through. The fact that every one of your ancestors first lived to reproductive age, that your lineage didn't have any major breaks in it, that the millions of sperm found the egg 150,000 times so that you can be here, all add up to 1 in 10 to the factor of 2,685,000. That's the chance that you are alive. Now that should provide us with some gratitude. Not political ideas about birth control or something else, because if it wasn't you, it was someone else. So, but it's amazing. It's amazing. What did I say it was? 1 in 10 to the factor of 2,685,000. Some mathematician in this room can write that number out. I can't even get it in my mind. For that small gift, we might take one day to thank our ancestors or one ancestor, even just one soul that we have loved, and give thanks. All Souls Day lets us do that in a way that no other holiday does. In a way, of all the Christian holidays, this one makes so much sense. It sharpens our appreciation for our mortality and our lives. And in my experience, this day in church has been rich and qualitatively alters my soul, my spirit. Because we bring photos here of loved ones and we light candles for them to remember the important place they had in our lives. With the host of others in this congregation, we put these here so that they look back at us, reminding us of our lives, of the temporary nature of our lives, and of memory. Now, this morning, before most of you were awake, I got up in the dark. And I pulled this photo, which you will not be able to see, but is a picture of my grandmother who died this summer. And on the back it says, Daniel Chesney, 8 days old. My grandmother has me in her arms. And today I place this photo with yours. It brought back many memories of my grandmother to me. She was not the most amazing grandparent I had. She was not the most intelligent, not the most generous or wise, but she was one of the most caring people that I have known. I can remember her holding me as an older boy on the couch as we talked around the fire in her cold Massachusetts home. I remember her making soup that I loved and her cackling laugh and the soft touch of her cheek. And I remember her today as a conduit to my life. I don't mourn her death. I celebrate her life today. I don't ask, where is she? As I have said, I am agnostic on heaven. I know that we put her ashes under the apple tree in Massachusetts where my other grandparents are interred. And like the boy in our reading today who said, what actually happens when you die is that your brain stops working and your body rots like Rabbit, his pet, did when he died, and we buried him in the earth at the bottom of the garden, all his molecules broken down. But that is all right because he is part of the flowers and the apple tree and the hawthorn bush now. Something in the human spirit must deal with death. And we do it each in our own way, but it is important that we do it. This past week, as I was leaving the memorial service I conducted for a grandparent of a member of this church, a man pulled me aside and told me he agreed with me that loved ones go to paradise. And I nodded, knowing I hadn't said that at all. But that is what he needed to hear. He told me his 15-year-old son had died 15 years ago. I could see that he carried that grief with him, like his wallet or his keys. He said, my son is in paradise, and I nodded and put my hand on his shoulder, and we stood there a while. In my mind, I said to myself, this man suffers deeply, and he has found a way to paradise, and that is good. Like the poem said, the reassurance, the poet speaking to the dead, the loved one who returned to reassure, how so like our minds to reassure, and I say, how so like our hearts to need that moment of paradise and to know it is real. We cannot stop the flow of time. The inevitable, the tragic, the natural, the unnatural passing of life. but we can hold it with kindness and celebration and respect, and we can have the dead with us and the memories of the dead that buoy us in a sea of life, a paradise of life here and now. Maybe this week, in between Halloween and next Sunday, you will make room for the dead to be with you. Maybe you will make some deliberate time this week, momentarily, to speak to your friend or your uncle or your grandmother or your partner or your spouse, to remember them, to hold them gently and to wish them no purgatory, but all paradise. So as spiritual people, I believe we are obligated to summon the dead. Not at tables with candles and Ouija boards, but to keep them alive, to nod to that great cloud of witnesses that looks back at us today in these pictures that we have placed together. In some ways, this is the image of heaven, us and them, paradise. And as we do each year, we place these photos. The power of it being in their images, being in our presence, telling us we are not alone, that we are loved, and we have love to share. And for this, we are grateful. So as we do each year, I invite you to invoke in your mind and heart the memory of someone who has died. Someone who loved you into your life or who urged you on, and to hold them preciously now in your memory, remembering how they felt and spoke and were in your life. Find the image, if it is not here, in your heart. And I invite you to join me now as we bless those who are the mourners amongst us, those whose memories are fresh with the faces of the dead. I invite anyone who is mourning the death of a loss of someone in your life in the last 12 months to please stand as you are willing and able. And will those mourners rise and take the hand of someone near as a stabilizing force to request support? Are you there, those who are mourning? For you, we read this from the Jewish tradition today. It says, "When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking in the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I have known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands, by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away." Please be seated, and let us join together in prayer. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who know loss. Blessed are those who know a leftover love. Those who may have lost trust in the world but can find hope in the seeds of remembrance, acts of friendship and affection. Blessed are those mourners who stood today in our midst, who rise to honor the passing of a person in their lives. Blessed are they who can be held by this community. May they find peace. And we name those members of this church who have died since All Souls Day last year. And we project their images here. They are Margie Carter, Edna Davis, Mireille Pillsbury, Lynn Ralph, Carolyn Saunders, Bob Sunshine, Warren Williamson, and the former minister of this church, Reverend Dwight Brown. I invite you to speak the names aloud of those you are remembering today in this sanctuary now. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Amen. precious day in church today. May it be a blessing on you. To remember is to carry love, to hold what is true, and bless the world with hope. Go in peace. Walk softly on your path, and may God shine in you all the days of your life. Amen.